Hey everybody, how you doing today? Today I wanted to show you my project for the summer. This is a fat bike I picked up cheap online. It's just a cheap brand that I ripped apart. And actually, this brand that you're seeing now, this is my just kind of how I mark my bikes. It really, it's not the brand it is. You can't find that anywhere. It's just my personal kind of custom builds I put on there. Anyway, so this is a fat bike I picked up online cheap. It's a cheap brand. But I wanted something cheap, didn't want to put a lot of money into it because, as you all know, it's very easy to dump a ton of money into one of these. But I wanted the experience, I wanted to have something that I could cruise along with, ride in the winter, etc. So, when I got this bike, I already planned on, just for fun, just for the experience, pretty much ripping it all apart and redoing everything on it. So, when I first got the bike, the first thing I did was rip off the tires and I drilled out the rims. So as you can see here, I cut out all these holes on the front and the back. I don't know, it's probably not recommended for the rim structure because the rim's pretty bad probably to begin with. But it's not, hasn't hurt anything yet. So I put red duct tape upside down, and it's easy to find good tutorials on how to do this, drill out the rims. It's really not that hard when it comes down to it. Good tutorials online that'll show you how to do it really well. Alright, the next thing I did was I ripped off the Shimano Tourney derailleur. I figured that derailleur paired with all the weight of the fat bike, and I don't weigh that much, like 160 myself, but I ride with my brother and my cousin on here sometimes. We load 3 people on, one on the seat, one on the handlebars, and just one pedaling. And they each weigh like 150, so that's 300, so that's almost 500 pounds that we can have on this bike at a given time. So I really wanted something that would hold up to the use of that, and I figured a Tourney would probably snap in half the first time I changed gears with a bunch of people on it. So now this derailleur is not a very great of a derailleur. It's an Acera. It's, I believe, the 3rd model up from Shimano's mountain bike line. It does the job a lot better. It's not a bad derailleur, and it's really cheap to pick up. It's like $40, so it's not a big investment, and it also has the easy adjustment that Shimano has. I wanted to get that. Personally, I like the SRAM derailleurs better than the Shimano. That's a personal opinion, but I really like the adjustability that the Shimanos have for the on-the-go adjustability. So, the next thing I did was I took off the bars that were original on here and replaced it with a flatter bar. Cheap again, not a big thing. So up here, also what I did is I replaced the whole brake set. This is a very, very cheap brake set you can find on Amazon. It's not very nice, but I wanted to mess around and have fun. So they're Peak brakes, and let's see if I can get it. It's basically a knockoff. Let's see if we can get that here. Novik is the brand name. So replaced those, replaced all the cables, front and back. Wanted to make sure it was good. I also got the Shimano shifter, new shifter to go with the derailleur, as I'm not a big twist shift fan, and I also wasn't quite sure how I would even mess around with it and get it set up, as it was kind of quirky. So the grips on here are just Salsa grips. Unfortunately, they really aren't holding up very well to the abuse. I haven't put very many miles on this bike, and they're already kind of showing signs of use and abuse. But whatever, I've been hard on it all summer. So, I also have, right now, I have some Crank Brothers mallet pedals on there, just for kicks and giggles. So, what do I think of this bike? I've ridden it all summer. I just kind of got to the point where I just do whatever you can for fun. I might at some time upload some of the videos we took over the summer using it. Basically what we would do is we'd have contests who could ride this thing farther out into lakes, and we buried the whole thing underwater, and it spent a lot of time in the water and the sand and just getting beaten on. So this fall I brought it home and ripped it all apart, ripped the bottom bracket apart, ripped all everything, the headset in here all apart, greased everything up, cleaned everything up. It was pretty gross. I'd definitely recommend doing it if you're hard on a bike, or if you get a cheap bike just in general, because they're typically not very greased and etc. So ever since I did that, I put it all back. I put the headset on a little tight because it was giving me some trouble, so that's a little quirky. And the crank might not be quite perfect, so it's running a little weird right now. But the thing is still a lot of fun. Winter's coming all too fast. I plan to ride this thing in the snow some. We'll see how it goes. I'd really like to upgrade the brakes to maybe an Avid BB7 or something. It's kind of up in the air what I want to do with that right now. The tires, I run those, the max on them is 20. I run them anywhere from 10 is about the lowest I've ran them because they aren't tubeless, but they ride nice. It soaks up the bumps. It rides across sand, mud. Mud's amazing. It rides across everything just phenomenally. It's really amazing. Since I knew I'd be riding it on a lot of sand, seashells, etc. all summer, I took the tube, and since I didn't want to replace tubes all the time because it's kind of a pain in the butt to replace them on here, I put this green goo I got at my bike shop. You just squirt it right in the tube, put a whole bottle of this stuff in each tube. Then I have had no trouble at all the whole entire summer, riding across seashells, across rocks, down creeks, just beating on it in general. Not a single problem. Hold air beautifully. The tires in general have held up really well, actually. They're just a stock tire. I don't even know. There's some random weird brand that really isn't anything great. But they've been okay so far this summer. Like I said, there's still stuff I'd like to upgrade. Next summer, we'll see. It would be fun to go on a bike packing trip, take this thing. But we'll see. It's kind of up in the air. Depends how this thing holds up and rides this winter, because I really wouldn't want it to break down while I'd be on a bike packing trip in the middle of nowhere. Before I would do that, of course, I would have to upgrade the brakes. I'd probably upgrade the derailleur, upgrade the seat post, the seat. I'd upgrade most everything on it again, just because it would be nicer. So here's my fat bike. My personal branding I put on there is I brand all my custom bikes Kumquat, and then I just made the model name Cobra. I have my cousin print off decals for me. So that all works out nice. It catches people's eye. It looks cool, especially the drilled out rims. And it really does what I need, and it's really cost effective. I maybe have $600 into here total, maybe. And I don't ride it as hard as some people ride their fat bikes, but it holds up for what I need it to do, and it's a lot cheaper than going out there and buying a brand name fat bike that starts at